what we've really been talking about with PBL is one of the ways to have a constructivist environment in your classroom. It's one of the ways to do that. But for us to move forward, I guess, what are your impressions or your ideas of what a constructivist or what the term constructivism means in terms of education? Has anyone ever heard the term before? I see one hand, some people nodding heads. Any totally foreign? I'm speaking a different language? A couple people? Just based on what you think a constructivist environment, based on what you experienced with what we talked about with PBL. What do you guys think constructivism means in terms of a way to teach? Come on, give it a shot.
Students are engaged and they're forming their own understanding of what the situation is.
Okay. I like it. Yes.
The teacher facilitates or mediates the learning.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Would you guys like some help? In your purple book, in this PBL Matters, if you can go to page 19, please. What I'd like you to do is kind of read through page 19, see if any of these quotes kind of spark ideas for definitions, or if anything really goes, ooh, that sounds really good. You gonna share, Tracy, or inside joke between you and fellow teachers?
That's just a matter of drinking like 2 liters a day. It just,
Oh.
that happens a lot.
Give everyone another minute or so. So did anything on this page resonate with anyone? Yeah.
I'll go with the last one. Engagement in meaningful work initiative mediated by civil teachers and
Okay. So what would you pull out of that you might go into constructivism, so we don't rewrite the whole code?
Part of it is of course, again, mediation thing, but we already have that.
Okay.
But it's that real thinking and learning is done by the student, not by the teacher.
Okay.
You know, the teacher helps them to get there, but it's the students that are doing the work. They're the ones whose minds are going to have to be changed by the experience.
Right. Yeah.
Going off that as well, when the learning is being done by the students, you don't want to have them go inside or outside their zone of proximal development. You want to make sure that it's appropriate for that student, and that can mean a lot of different things. For many different students in your class, making sure that it's always within something they can reach themselves, being within the zone of proximal development.
Okay. Any other thoughts that this page is kind of spurred on the idea of constructivism or anything along those lines, or something that you go, ooh, that sounded good?
Challenging the students' suppositions, it's out in here.
Okay. And why did that kind of hit you?
Well, I think that when we started this whole process, we were talking about what we learned well.
Mhm.
And I just think of the mistakes that you make and you think you're doing something right and then you find out you weren't doing it right, that you never forget that. You know, I mean, I'm learning to bowl and I found out that putting my thumb all the way in the hole is why I'm having a lot of trouble. I tried everything I could think of, and then suddenly somebody saw me doing it, and I'm never going to forget that now. So I thought I was doing it right.
I think the only thing harder than trying to throw the bowling ball is trying to do a golf swing.
That's
I
nuts.
think, you know,
Oh my gosh.
I think that's, to do that, right? Then I want to build off of that, actually. And with these ideas and what was read on the page, what connections do you see between the idea of constructivism and that discussion we had about how learning happens? What connections do you see between those two ideas? I don't know, which one's easier to keep up? What we've put up here or to see that list again for the how learning happens?
Probably this one.
Do we think this might be more useful to keep up for now? Okay. So, what connections do you see?
Got a role model helping you.
Okay.
You're doing the learning, but the teacher is facilitating things that you might be questioning you about what you're thinking, what you're doing.
Okay. So a lot of those people, a lot of people mentioned that they had a mentor or someone, or someone even mentioned they saw videos on YouTube or something. I mean, it's really just another way of mentoring. It means the person's not there. So again, you kind of have that, right? Any other connections between that?
And
Yeah.
I'm thinking like that doing it and the actual experiencing of it, where it says the real thinking and learning being done by the students, it's like they have to get in there and do it.
Right. And most of those things that you guys learned, how many of those things that you said that you learned well was because someone else told you to learn it? You know, what if we changed that question from earlier? Think of something you learned, but not very well.
Yeah.
Why did you not learn it well? Jen and I had an interesting conversation as I was getting my dinner. I liked math. I did very well at it. Did I learn it well? Probably not, because I didn't love it. Science, on the other hand, I learned it very well, because I loved it. I spent 5 years in the lab doing research with it. You know, so I had that desire, with it. So, I mean, sometimes that's the difference. You learn something well or not well, it depends on some of your own engagement in it. Yeah. Sure.
But I think too, it's about kind of where you start from or what you have to attach that learning to. And I think that's what's so interesting about this kind of theory of learning. It's about attaching things. It's about kids being able to attach. I think that's the beauty of the whole problem-based learning. And to kind of go back to what you said earlier, Kathy, when you shared the idea of pre and post and how the kids learn in a traditional setting versus a problem-based learning.
Right.
And for me, I always think it's about, having something that you're attaching this learning to or not having something. And then part of what creates this love and this passion for something is that you've got something that you're attaching it to, and therefore it makes it more interesting, and interesting makes you like it more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the other part is think of this idea of constructivism, and how does it connect to PBL then? You talked about being able to connect it. So how do you put the real thinking and learning on the students? How do you do that as a teacher in general? PBL, not PBL, if you're doing this in your regular classroom. How do you put that on them? Yeah,
Questioning.
questioning, okay. What's that, Tracy?
Exploration.
Exploration, Jeff?
I was gonna say, posing real world situations or things that are relevant to them.
Mhm. How many answers have Kathy and I really given today? A lot, little, some? When you guys ask a question. Be honest.
A little.
A little.
Because we were short on time, so.
Okay.
You got it.
There are times, yes. Yep, there are times that we did because we're short on time. You know, and that's a big part of it is deciding who's doing the learning. I believe it's Harry Wong who always talks about, you know, why at the end of the day is the teacher exhausted and the kids have all the energy? Who did all the work all day long? You know, and who really should be doing the work during the student school day? It should be the point where the teachers can go home and have energy and the kids should be exhausted, you know, if they were doing all the work, learning and everything like that. And so that's really what we're trying to talk about with constructivism is that the students are building their learning, that they're making a lot of those connections to, you know, the real world or things like that, and you set up that environment for them to put all the pieces together. I think a lot of times in classrooms, you know, what I learned, I went to Catholic schools also, so I had very traditional teaching in many cases. And, you know, we were told how this connects to this. And, you know, students always have a real hard time. My personal experience at the middle school level, you know, if we did graphing in science, why are we doing graphing? This is science, not math. Well, you can do graphing in other places other than in the math classroom. Or if we did reading or writing, this isn't English, this is science. Yes, they go together a little bit, you know. And the students, when you tell them how everything connects, they don't see the connections because you told them. Where if they make those connections, it's going to be very different. What we want you to do for a few minutes, in your packet, right after the page, of course, if I had, find the packet. But right after the page where you guys had your, we did the problem statement, there's this one form that says observation form, and it says the constructivist environment indicators. It's 2 pages, it's back to back. What we'd like you to do is take a few minutes and kind of read through this. And this is an observation tool that we will use when we get invited into classrooms. And these are the types of things we would look for a constructivist environment. And what we'd like you to do is take a few minutes and kind of read through these. You know, check off the things that you do. Give yourself a pat on the back. If you come across something here that you think, hey, maybe this is something I want to work on, star it, do whatever you want. This is 100% for you. But these are some of the things that we would see if we walked into a constructivist classroom. So take a few minutes and kind of just read through it on your own.